Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's Supreme Court Daca Decision Town Hall. My name is Fina Espino. I am the Program Specialist here at the Dreamer Resource Office at Cal State San Marcos. I do want to announce that our webinar will be recorded today and it will be available on the Dreamer Resource Office website in the next few days. That website is csusn.edu/dreamer. Please also add any questions you have throughout the evening to the Q&A below, and our panelists will be answering them during the second half of the webinar. So tonight we will be hearing from our president, Dr. Ellen Neufeld, Brian Bradbury, our Director of Government Relations, Congressman Mike Levin, and a panel of experts including Katia Henson, CEO and President of URISE, Veronica Yesta and Maria Gomez of Jewish Family Services, Yesenia Tovar, our past and Dreamer counselor, and Dr. Marisol Clark-Ibanez and Dr. Michelle Ramos-Palicia. I also want to acknowledge that we have a few other CSUSM colleagues who will be joining us to help answer questions, and I will introduce them at the beginning of the Q&A. We're going to go ahead and kick it off with a message and some comments from President Neufeld.
Well, thank you so much for having me here tonight, and I really want to thank all of our panelists and experts that are here. I know that I myself am going to learn a lot this evening, and the fact that you're partnering with us means so much. You know, the past weeks have brought so much different emotion in what's been happening in our world, and last week the Supreme Court decisions just really were a bright spot in all that we're experiencing. Don't get me wrong, I know there's so much work to be done, but this is such an important, significant step forward, and really just helps me know how important it is that we redouble our advocacy to make sure that Congress acts and that we can continue to move forward. I really want to make a statement, though, to anyone on our campus that's a dreamer, and make sure that you know that your home is here. And there are so many days as president, I feel helpless, or to the point that was made before we even started this panel is sometimes information's always changing. But there's something that's unwavering. Your home is here. We care about you and want to make sure that for our students that we help you achieve your dreams. And for our faculty and staff, I'm so glad that we get to move forward together. I also know that it's so important for everybody that's a part of this that we keep continuing to have panels move forward, work together in our advocacy and information to make sure we're moving in the right direction. So thank you for letting me be a part of this, and I'm looking forward to listening and learning as this evening moves forward.
Thank you. It's wonderful to have you here today, President Neufeld. Thank you so much for the support. And now we have a panel of experts who will brief you a few specific areas around the Daca decision and its impacts, and I will introduce them as we move through the panel. We'll go ahead and get started with Sean Bradbury, our Director of Government Relations at Cal State San Marcos, who's going to briefly unpack the decision for us.
Hi, everyone. I think to Fina's point, I'm going to try to unpack and just level set with everybody what the decision said as briefly as possible so that you have our experts later, the attorneys that we have from URISE and JFS that will provide more of the legal substance behind this and will free up some of their time. So the case in question is Department of Homeland Security versus the Regents of the University of California. In a 5-4 decision, the court found with Chief Justice John Roberts writing the majority opinion, found that the Department of Homeland Security failed to provide a recent explanation for its decision to rescind DACA in violation of the Administrative Procedures Act. The ruling that the court found was based on the 2017 memo that DHS had put together. This came a day after Attorney General or then Attorney General Jeff Sessions had issued his opinion that the DACA was unlawful. The memo produced by then acting HS Secretary Elaine Duke explained the decision to phase out DACA based on both the advice of the Attorney General and basing it on the prior decision on DAPA and DACA expansion. That was a split 4-4 decision that upheld the appellate court's decision to overrule that. The decision found that the the fact that the Department of Homeland Security failed to adequately explain their rationale for ending the decision was both arbitrary and capricious. So the Administrative Procedures Act requires that an agency that's ending a rule or something that where Congress has the authority to just simply vote that they're ending that program if it's congressionally authorized. If it's an agency that's making that, they have to provide some rationale, some explanation, some planning for folks. Robert's decision found that, or Robert's rule, his opinion found that the Department of Homeland Security failed to take into account that students at public and private higher institutions of higher education, students who were in the military, folks who had small businesses, who were making long-term life plans based on their status as a DACA recipient, that none of that was taken into account in that planning, that they failed to recognize the long-term implications that this decision was going to have on individuals who were DACA recipients. The court did not find that the administration did not have the right to repeal DACA. That is not something that immigration activists dispute. That is not something the administration disputes. They have the right to roll back DACA. It just has to be in a manner that adheres to the Administrative Procedures Act and is well thought out and rationed. So what you have seen in the last few days is the acting heads of UCIS and DHS have both indicated, as well as the president in some tweets, have indicated that the administration intends to, need some water here, intends to act on the court's ruling and structure a rollback of DACA that adheres to what the court found. So they're going to put in some planning, have something in place that will meet the standard that the court has set in the ruling. The question that lies before Congress now is there enough time left, either in the administration's time or with the congressional calendar to address this? So you have 5 months left in the first term of this administration. If they are reelected, this becomes more of an issue. If there is a different administration elected in November, obviously that's a question before the next administration. But these are two issues that we'll be dealing with. And I kick it more to our attorneys to answer the legal implications of this. What we have ahead of us today and the information that you're hearing is what we know today. What we've seen from the administration just over the weekend, some of their wordings on what kind of planning they're putting into this has changed. Nothing substantive, but they are still indicating that they're moving forward, but everything is changing on a daily basis. So what we're providing you today is the best of what we know currently, and the advice that we're giving is based on that information. So we'll make sure that any information we're providing is, again, the best to our knowledge at that time, but all of this is subject to change. So thank you for that, and I kick it over to our next panelist.
Thank you, Sean. We appreciate your expertise. Now we will move over to Katja Hansen, President and CEO of URISE, who will discuss the legal implications of this decision.
Thank you so much. As Josefina said, my name is Katja Hansen, and my pronouns are she and they interchangeably. I proudly serve as the President and CEO of URISE, which is Unitarian Universalist Refugee and Immigrant Services and Education, and now you know why we call it URISE. We are very happy to partner with Cal State San Marcos through the Uprise program and the Dreamer Resource Office, where we provide free legal services to students and their loved ones on campus. And we'll talk more about that later because it's a nice complement to what Jewish Family Service is doing as well. So I just want to piggyback a little bit on what Sean said. I think you did, Sean, thank you. You did a great recap. That was impressive. One of the things I do want to point out, though, is that there was the opportunity for the Supreme Court to look at whether or not there were constitutional violations of the Equal Protection Act, equal protection issues, and that was not addressed. Justice Sotomayor did address it in her concurrent decision because of the president's anti-immigrant comments, his racist comments and tweets, but unfortunately that did not become part of the decision. So what that means as Sean rightly said, is that it was decided on a procedural issue. It was decided on a procedural issue. And the problem with the decision on a procedural issue is that you can fix a procedural mistake. And that's what we're anticipating seeing is that happening. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But I want to start with what's the good part, what's the impact. For right now, DACA as we knew it, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals as we knew it in 2012, is reinstated. So that means DACA renewals will continue. Anyone who has DACA right now is able to continue renewing your DACA. And I know for the last year or a year and a half, we've really been pushing people to renew pretty much yearly because of not knowing what was going to happen. But now we know we have a little bit more time. So we're going to ask those people who currently have DACA to make sure you're giving yourself at least 6 months before you submit your DACA renewal application, but you don't need to try and submit every year as you have been. That urgency has decreased a little bit. For initial DACA applications, it's our understanding that they are going to be accepted. It seemed very clear in the decision, but we need to wait on USCIS guidance. There is an application that exists. The I-821D still has initial DACA as well as DACA renewal in the same application. But the USCIS website still says that they are not accepting initial applications. So it's going to be really important that you seek advice from an immigration attorney or from a DOJ accredited representative to make sure you have a good understanding of whether or not you are eligible to apply for DACA. There's very specific eligibility criteria, and I'm going to be around at the end for questions and can go through that criteria at that time if that would be helpful, and can also go through a checklist of things that you might want to start to prepare in the meantime. But just know that just because of the ruling, we're not going to see applications that are going in immediately because we need to have guidance from USCIS as to what they're going to require and how we're going to move forward with that. One of the other impacts of the 2012 DACA being reinstated is the idea of advance parole. And advance parole is something that is permission from the government to leave the United States and return to the United States. We are anticipating that that should be reinstated, but there is a big caution here, and that is that even though advance parole states on the sheet of paper that it gives you permission to re-enter the United States in the big letters, in the small letters on the bottom, it also explains that it's discretionary, and whoever the immigration officer is at the border will make that decision. So not only are you dealing with discretionary with an immigration officer, you are also dealing with a situation that could change very quickly. So if you left the United States, it's entirely possible that we will have a new memorandum or a new court decision that could happen very quickly, and it's possible for you to be stuck outside of the United States. The only way that advance parole was previously granted was under humanitarian reasons and for some business or education reasons. And at this point, again, we highly recommend that you speak to an immigration attorney or a DOJ accredited rep to get some good advice, because in general, most of us are saying it's really not worth the risk to look at leaving the United States if you're not sure that you would be able to return. So we've got bad news and good news. The bad news is that we do anticipate that this administration will move forward with trying to fix the mistake that they made in the procedure, and they will look to how they can move forward with ending the DACA program. We've seen tweets from the president. We've seen a USCIS press release that states, and I quote, "This decision has no basis in the law," which is just shocking considering that the United States Supreme Court is who sets and articulates the law of the country. And we've seen press releases from both the acting Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security and the acting Deputy Secretary of the Homeland Security using very inflammatory and racist and anti-immigrant language, stating that they disagree with the Supreme Court decision. So we need to be prepared that the administration is going to move forward and try to end this. The good news is that the Supreme Court was also really clear that the violation of the Administrative Procedures Act was because it was arbitrary and capricious, and because it didn't provide accommodations for people who would have relied on the program, that there was an expectation of reliance. So what that does mean is that the sunsetting of the program that happened in 2017 was considered to not appropriately give accommodations and not give an appropriate amount of time for people who relied on that. So that's good news. That means, that tells us that it will take them longer to be able to end the program. The sunsetting, where people who had DACA, it would just expire if they weren't able to renew it in that 1 month period. So what we knew is that some people had DACA that was going to be eligible for 1 year. Some people had DACA that was still going to be eligible for almost up to 2 years. And that wasn't considered sufficient amount of time for it to not be arbitrary and capricious. So ideally, we will have an extended period of time that not only will allow us to prepare and allow us to launch countermeasures to figure out how we can better work with our government to create an immigration system that makes sense, but it also will get us through the next election, and possibly that we'll see some changes at that time. One of the things that's really important is that we need to have people getting involved, and we need people to get involved in a way that makes sense to them based on their immigration status, based on their abilities, based on their resources, based on the privileges that they hold and that they can leverage, and based on where their passions lie. There's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done. Right now, there are petitions to Department of Homeland Security to make sure that they are putting out guidance for USCIS and accepting applications right away. There's also conversations going on with elected officials, making sure that they know how important this is, and really making sure that they know that there is the political will of the people, that we support the DACA program, and that we know that home is here. And there's ways of getting involved, of supporting organizations, nonprofit organizations that are providing these services, and donating to funds that help cover the cost of people who need to apply. The cost to apply for DACA, either to renew your DACA or to apply for an initial DACA, is $495. But there has been a proposal to increase that fee, and we're waiting to see when that's going to happen. And when that does happen, the fee will go up to $765. And that's just the fee to the US government. That doesn't cover what it costs the attorneys or the nonprofit legal service provider. It doesn't count what it costs us to fulfill and submit those applications. So this is a time that those of us who have the privilege and the ability to be able to fund those resources should be doing so. Programs like Uprise are incredible, and the HELS program at the Higher Education Legal Services program at Jewish Family Service, we're so lucky to have these programs, but they still only impact a small part of our community. So we need to be looking not only at the Cal State San Marcos community, but at the broader community as well. So things that you can do right away are going to be to sign up for an appointment. We'll put the link in the chat for an Uprise appointment at Cal State San Marcos, or actually now via Zoom, for you to have that. And I know that Jewish Family Service is going to share how to sign up for those appointments as well. The Uprise program with URISE, we're able to provide services for students at Cal State San Marcos, as well as faculty and staff, and all of the loved ones of students at Cal State San Marcos. And we let you define what loved one is. It's not a specific definition, and there's no litmus test. If you tell us someone's important to you, we believe you. I think that's the big things that I want to cover now, and then at the end, we'll have an opportunity to go through the specific eligibility requirements for initial DACA, as well as the types of evidence that you need to start gathering so that you can apply. The sooner you can do that, the better we have it. As soon as we have guidance, we'll open up applications and start working to get those submitted. There always is some danger in submitting applications and providing information to the government, especially if we're not sure what's going to happen. But given the Supreme Court decision, we think that there's going to be an extended period of time before they would be able to do anything negative. So we're hopeful that we'll be able to help as many people as possible to have that additional protection. So thanks so much for having me be here.
Thank you, Katia. And then we do just want to remind all the attendees that you can submit your questions here at the Q&A portion at any time, and we'll answer them during the Q&A at the end of the evening. Up next, we do have Veronica Yesta and Maria Gomez of Jewish Family Services, who will now share some resources and how JFS can assist.
Thank you, everyone. Let me see if I can share my screen for a minute. Showing okay? So I will let my colleague Maria, she will start with the presentation about Jewish Family Service.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maria Gomez. I am a Department of Justice Accredited Representative with the Higher Education Legal Services Program behind Jewish Family Service of San Diego. And we're very excited to be here with you all today. So I would like to piggyback on what Katia said, the importance of scheduling an appointment. And by doing so, I would like to provide you with background in regards to who is Jewish Family Service of San Diego, as well as who the Higher Education Legal Services team is, and what are we currently doing and have been doing at CSU San Marcos to support our documented students, as well as any other student that could benefit from our services. And this would not only be aiming at students, but it also will be aiming at staff and faculty. So first of all, Jewish Family Service of San Diego is a pro bono organization, meaning that the services we provide are free of cost or low of cost. Under the Higher Education Legal Services Program, our consultations are free of charge to all students, staff, and faculty. And Jewish Family Service of San Diego is far beyond an organization that solely provides services in regards to immigration. For example, we have the Family and Community Service that consists of food assistance programs, positive parenting program, breaking down barriers, counseling, and our safe parking. We also have our aging and wellness services available, and that's kind of aimed at our older population and also their caregivers, families, and friends that could benefit from needed support to go through an illness that might be unaware to us, as well as the young adult initiatives. And then we fall under the immigration services and refugee. So what is it that our immigration services does? First of all, currently, thank you, Veronica. We provide general immigration. So that would be anything from green card renewals for refugees and asylees, replacement of green cards, travel document, family reunification, employment authorization, citizenship, and administrative relief. So Daca renewals. And Veronica will also touch more in depth in regards to our current stance with the Scotus decision that was just announced this past Thursday. We also do asylum and removal defense. However, that is another department within our immigration services team that we would be looking into a referral. And here you'll find our awesome team that compose the Higher Education Legal Services. So basically what we do is provide all these services at school campuses. And students, staff, and faculty do not have to worry about going to our main campus in Kearny Mesa to be able to get these services free of cost. So during your consultation or just legal screening with any one of our team members, you are guaranteed various key points. One of them is that, once again, our services are free of cost to students, staff, and faculty. However, that does not imply USCIS filing fees. For example, as Katia already mentioned, there is a $495 filing fee for DACA renewals, as there could potentially be for initial DACA applications. Therefore, we would not be able to cover that fee. That would be the responsibility of our client. But if there is some sort of assistance, we would be determining eligibility for our students, staff, and faculty to see if we could assist in any way or form. Also, we do imply high importance on confidentiality. All information that is shared with our team is only shared solely with our legal team to provide an in-depth analysis and also seek the capacity within our team to provide reasonable and secure immigration services to the community that approaches our services.
Thank you, Maria. So we're going to now go more in depth about what specifically we're doing for post-DACA decision. So everyone, again, let me go back to how to access our services. So you can go directly to our webpage, Jewish Family Service, so jfssc.org/health, and you just click on schedule an appointment. When you get to that tab, you will see that there are many options about what type of appointments you will need to schedule. If you're thinking about applying for initial DACA, then we will encourage you to go and click on consultation. Jewish Family Service is now receiving consultations for any individual that wants to apply for initial DACAs on top of the renewals that we were already assisting. So again, as Katia very well mentioned, there's still a lot of unknowns about this decision, and anything that we're saying is valid as of today and right now, and while we're talking, things may be changing already. So please be aware again that what we're saying today is valid as of today and right now. So today, if you go and you click in our website, you're able to schedule this consultation appointment for a screening for initial applications. We're still continue to do the renewals, and as Katia very well mentioned, there's no this urgency that we were experienced before. So if your DACA is not going to, if you have DACA and it's not going to expire within 6 months, there's no need for you to go ahead and rush to renew. And also in regards to the filing fee that we were able to offer, Jewish Family Service was able to provide the DLS funding for covering renewal fees. However, that is not any longer valid and since this past Friday. So the only thing that JFS is now currently offering for assisting in a very limited way is for initials. So if you're planning on filing for your initial application, please go ahead, schedule your consultation, and if you qualify, you may be able to have that fee covered, but again, it's very limited and it's as of today. The most important thing is that our services are free of charge. So if you're looking forward to see if someone can assess if you have the ability to apply for DACA as an initial, please go ahead and schedule, because our services are free of charge for any Cal State San Marcos affiliate. So that's not only for students, but also for faculty and staff. URISE is also able to provide services for loved ones. So please go ahead and also give that opportunity. You are very lucky to have both legal providers on campus service. So please go ahead and try to avoid fraud. We know that as soon as these news come up, there's a lot of people that will be trying to help. So please just go with trusted legal providers. URISE and JFS are two of the many. You're so lucky again to have both just servicing your campus. But also if you need another second opinion, go ahead. We have also like trusted legal referrals, and we also have a website that we can provide later, so you can find your other legal providers that you can trust for these referrals. The other thing that is very important is, as Katia mentioned, this is a decision on not if it's going to be ended, but when it's going to be ended, because it's a procedure thing. So we know that at some point this will happen. So please get this consultation not only to see if you qualify for initial DACA, but also to see if you can access any more permanent solution. DACA will not give you a path itself for residency or citizenship. It's just a temporary discretionary remedy. So please go ahead and get this consultation to see if you can qualify for something that is more permanent. I will give you other avenues. And again, please try to avoid going to a provider that may not be the one that you need to trust. We know that sometimes people will go to the notario because it's a person that is well known in the neighborhood, and you maybe your tío or someone else went already and they arrange the papers. Please wait on that. Get a consultation from a trusted service provider. This is our website, jewishfamilyservicesandiego.org/health. This is our email address, and this is our phone number. And this is for, again, affiliates for San Marcos University. However, if you have someone else that is interested, if it is a loved one, go and check the DRO website, and Josefina can provide more information on that, and you can see how to access the services for loved ones. And we also have opened our general immigration services. So even if you don't qualify for as a Cal State San Marcos affiliate, you can still access the services. Again, if you have any more questions, we're going to be around, and thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you, Veronica and Maria. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as well, just to talk about some of the services that the Dreamer Resource Office offers to our students, staff, faculty, and community members. Let me go ahead and select it here. Okay, I hope you guys can all see that. Some of our free resources available here are, like Katia and Veronica said, free immigration legal consultations for students, staff, faculty, and your loved ones. We also have mental health support groups, and we do have one of our mental health counselors on the call later for questions. We offer emergency safety planning so you can be better prepared in case of an emergency. We recently had 2 emergency safety planning workshops with URISE this past week. We also do a lot of community networking events on campus, like peer mixers, family nights, things of that sort. We've increased the number of Know Your Rights presentations with JFS. We are hosting them every other week, with one coming up this Thursday. And then we also have academic and career counseling, and we have Yesenia Tovar online with us today to talk about the Dreamer counselor role that she plays here for us on campus. Yesenia, you're muted.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Yesenia Tovar. I am a past counselor with Readiness and Success Services and serve as a Dreamer counselor. My role on campus is to support students holistically and to provide them with the needed support and resources to help them achieve their academic goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Yesenia. And up next, we have Dr. Marisol Clark-Ibanez, who is also our sociology chair here at CSUSN. And she will be discussing safety in our classrooms, community outreach efforts, and also allyship.
Hey everyone, what a powerful panel so far. It's truly a privilege and honor to be here sharing a little bit. So I wanted to just address the students on this webinar to remind everybody about their right to be learning in the safety of a classroom among your peers and also your faculty. The right that we have to education, but in particular, the rights afforded to us in the state of California, the United States, for undocumented individuals. And these rights have been really, at least at Cal State San Marcos, we are embracing them, as you heard from the remarks from the president and onward. So your insights, your perspectives, whether you're in a sociology class, business, or biology, are important to share. And part of that is feeling like you can be your whole self if you want, to the extent you want to share in class, not necessarily about your status, but just feeling like you can be okay in the classroom. Because we know in our region, there are many stressors around immigration enforcement and worries that we have about family. So I wanted to just kind of take a shout out of all the folks on this webinar and more who are your allies for support. And Dr. Ramos Beicia will be speaking a little bit more about this as well in terms of faculty, but please do reach out to us, especially if you're encountering something that feels unsafe or odd. And we know the online environment we're about to get into even more, the virtual. Most of our classes will be virtual in the fall. We're here as allies and as supporters. And to my next point is just to really remind you of the Dreamer Resource Office, which for students, this is a very hard fought resource for campus. And it is so amazing that that we have this here, an incredible staff with peers and a director and program coordinators. And they, they do everything, like a lot. I know, because I see their work and receive their emails. So this brings me to another point about STAND, which has been a student club at Cal State San Marcos. It started actually way back in 2004, 2005. And Silverio Jaro and myself were the first advisors for the club. And it's currently the advisors now is Antonio de la Garza, Dr. de la Garza in communications. And so you might want to ask, why do we need a student club if we already have our hard-won victory of a Dreamer Resource Office? Well, as students, you are going through a lot. And as legislation change and as your needs change, we do want to look to the horizon. We want to look for more in the future. And it truly is a student voice that's so essential. And to offer another way to have peer-to-peer contact. Couple more things. I'm also a faculty director for the National Latino Research Center. And while we do many projects out in the community, I want to point out a special contract that we have with Alliance San Diego, which is a very trusted organization in our region. And it's to do outreach and education for undocumented immigration issues. And Lillian Serrano is our point person for this contract. And so I just want to point out that we have this other resource on campus to serve us on campus, but also in the greater region. The last two things is to share about a regional listserv that we have. It started off with a really cool conference way back in 2009 called Avenidas, kind of your journeys. And it was with our local high schools, Palomar College, Miracosta College, and Cal State. And from there, all those participants, like 500, we created an Education Without Borders listserv. And I've been maintaining it since then, giving information as relevant. It's not an everyday listserv, but I will send information on if you'd like to subscribe, if you're a student, a family member, or service provider ally, please join. And many of the panelists here send things out that I then forward outward. Finally, we're faculty, and so we do research. And sometimes cultivating the voice and the experiences of those who are most impacted can be a very powerful experience. And so with some of our research endeavors, not just with myself, though I have that as well, but with many faculty on campus, we're really striving, in our case, to do research with, by, and for undocumented students and family members and community members. And so whatever major you are, if you find yourself wanting to know more and connect kind of social issues with scholarly work, there's a faculty member on campus waiting to work with you. In addition to, if you want to just do your biology lab work or whatever. But there's a lot that's going on. It's pretty vibrant. I'll be sending along lots of links. Sorry to clutter your chat box, but I'll send links that I prepared to send resources along, and along with my email. I'm working all summer. I'm a department chair. I will be online every day of this summer and forever, seems like. So please reach out. And thank you so much for including myself and allowing us to share so many resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Marisol Clark-Ibanez. Up next, we also have Dr. Michelle Ramos-Galicia, who will talk about her role in CSA, their collective efforts, and on her work with University Without Borders.
Hi, thank you, Ken, and I hope everybody can hear me. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for connecting me with y'all through this venue. And also, it's an honor to be going after my dear friend and colleague, Marisol Clark-Ibanez. So I am Michelle Ramos-Galicia, as you heard, and I am an associate professor of Hispanic Sociolinguistics and Modern Language Studies. I'm also an NLRC faculty affiliate. And I am also working with University Without Borders. I'm the co-founder and chair now. And I'm the CFA eBoard vice president and on our campus, and co-chair of the Chicanx Latinx caucus statewide. So I wanted to talk to you about ways to get involved as an ally or as a co-conspirator. If you find yourself thinking, okay, so now what can I do? How can I support my colleagues? How can I support our students? If you are a faculty member or a coach or a staff member, or maybe you're a librarian, or maybe you have another role on our campus, right? So I will encourage you to think about this. It took a group of us back in spring of 2016, when we heard that Border Patrol was on our campus during a career fair, listening to our students who were really upset, in great anxiety, experiencing great anxiety, and for us to step back and say, what can we do? So we started to put together a resolution that we passed in Senate unanimously. And after that resolution passed in Academic Senate, then we said, okay, now what, right? So we founded University Without Borders. Marisol was involved in that process from the resolution to right now. And we worked together collectively with other faculty members, with other staff members, with students who are undocumented. Maybe they're Daca recipients, or maybe they haven't revealed their status, but they are sitting at the table with us, and some administrators as well, working on supporting the experiences of our undocumented students, Daca AB 540, and students with mixed status families, because we are very well aware that their experience is different from other students. And so we formulate, evaluate, and recommend on university policies and procedures. And we serve as a bridge between students and faculty members on effectuating change. And we also collaborate in this type of events on Know Your Rights. We also work together with other faculty members and students collecting data. We collaborated also with Marisol on writing, grants. And so it is in this collective work that we're seeing the impact of, our concerns, but also putting that activism in, to roll, right? I also want to mention that we've been in conversations with campus police on SB 54. So that's also another action that we've been working on. So if you're a student, please, please, please contact me. I'm happy to have you get involved with us. If you're a faculty member, a coach, a librarian, a counselor, we also are pushing for having more counselors, because mental health is very important for all of us, but particularly in this special times, right? In very uncertain times. So we're also pushing for that. And in terms of student involvement, and now I'm going to transition to talk about our role, the work that we do in CFA. In CFA, we've been also working, and this is as part of our work on anti-racism and social justice. And if you don't know what CFA stands for, CFA is the California Faculty Association. We are a union of tenure line lecturer, faculty, librarians, and coaches, and counselors. And we work together collectively on the bread and butter, right? The usual issues that we work as unions, but also collectively on anti-racism and social justice. And so this means that we have to work on legislation, we have to work on messaging, statements, press releases, and we also have to act on our demands. So I give you some examples of our work towards protecting and defending our undocumented students. In 2016, we co-sponsor a bill to give access to higher education for every student. This means not only Black students, brown students, LGBTQA, Asian descent, Pacific Islanders, but also undocumented students, right? We work actively on creating messaging and collaborating, for instance, with the Coalition for Humane Immigrants' Rights, CHIRLA. We also work with Students for Quality Education, and that's another way that you can get involved. We also have a chapter, an SQE chapter. Our SQE chapter, and also statewide, we have the No Harm, Disarm campaign to demilitarize police and invest in mental health counselors. And those two issues go hand in hand. And in our statement that was recently released on racial and social justice, on the anti-Black racism, violence, and murders, we specifically demanded the militarization of our campus police, and then investing on the mental health and well-being of our students by hiring tenure-track counselors that reflect the diversity of experiences, but also the diversity in general of our students, of all our students. In addition to that, and I'm about to finish, we have worked actively on raising awareness of the demands of COVID, on the impact of COVID-19. As you know, there are about 30,000 Daca recipients who are on the front lines working as healthcare providers. So we were pushing really hard for Daca to be sustained, right? To be protected, because we know that DACA recipients are actively engaged in our communities. There are students, there are staff. We also, last year, we worked as a union to demand that CalPERS stops investing on pensions, our pensions in core civic and GEO groups, companies that administer the detention centers. And with that, I want to emphasize that we are reminding people how our immigrants are dehumanized, mistreated, and criminalized, right? So it is a human right to immigrate. It is a human right to get an education. And so with that, we also want to emphasize how we also have AB 1460, which is to require all students in the CSU system to take 3 credits on ethnic studies class. And you may be asking, so how is this related to undocumented students? Well, demanding and having 3 credits of an ethnic studies class will help us help our students and help ourselves to understand more of our about our different experiences, different races, ethnicities, and perspectives. And it will help us in our fight against racism and xenophobia, which, you know, we see are the effects seen in society. So again, if you want to get involved, there are many opportunities through CFA. If you're a faculty, counselor, librarian, or coach, there's also opportunities to be, and also University Without Borders. And also if you're a student, you've heard from Marisol's stand, working in research projects, and also with University Without Borders and with SQV. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Michelle Ramos-Felicia. I also wanted to mention that I have been working with Dr. Ramos-Felicia about we're putting together community circles. We were expecting a bad Supreme Court decision, but thank God it wasn't as bad as we thought. But we're still going to be moving forward with the community circles so that students, staff, and faculty can come together and support each other. So please stay tuned for that. We will be announcing it both on our social media and our website. And now we're going to move forward to the Q&A. And I would like to introduce our additional panelists who are online for answering questions. We have Lisa McLean from Human Resources, Julie Lindenmeyer from Financial Aid, Dr. Lisa Lim from Student Health and Counseling Services, and then we have Floyd Lai from the Cross Cultural Center, who is representing our student centers. So if we can welcome them. And then we have a couple of questions. Sean, do you want to go ahead and start with the questions?
Yeah, so we've had a couple questions pre-submitted in registration that I can ask now verbally. First thing I want to pick up on the AB 1460 just passed as amended out of the Senate this week. It's sitting in the Assembly awaiting concurring action before it will get sent over to the governor for final action at some point. So they're about to go on their July break, so we'll see whenever they come back for additional business. AB 1460 will likely be on the docket in the Assembly. So the first question that we have from our pre-registration, and this will be addressed to any of our attorneys that wants to take this up. This comes from a Daca student who asks, if someone has a 245I petition in process, is it better to consult an attorney to adjust their status? Any takers?
I'll jump in. I can guarantee we're all going to have the same answer of yes. Yes, that anyone who has any sort of an application, whether you currently have DACA or whether you're hoping to qualify for DACA, now that the initial applications will be opening again, you really want to talk to an attorney or a DOJ accredited rep. You're able to do both of that. You're able to do that through both JFS and URISE on campus. And it's really important. The reason why you want to do that is because part of what we're doing is we're always going to be assessing whether or not there's a better and more stable form of immigration relief that you may be eligible for. You may be excited thinking that you're going to be able to apply for DACA for the first time. And in our consultation, we may find that you may be eligible for something else that would allow you a pathway to becoming a lawful permanent resident and a U.S. citizen.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you, Katya. We have the second one is, when will applications begin to be accepted? And I believe that answer is still yet to be determined, but Katya, can I kick it back over to you or any one of our other?
You can, or Veronica or Maria, also would be just fine. But yeah, we're waiting for guidance from USCIS. Great. Technically, there is an application because the application has been there since 2012. But the USCIS website still says as of the time that I logged on to this, now of course it could have changed while we were on this call, it still said that they are not accepting initial applications. Generally with USCIS, we have to wait until they give us guidance of what they're going to require, if they're going to require anything new, and where the applications will be submitted, because that may be different than where the renewal applications are.
Great, thank you.
We also had a question.
Yeah, I do have to piggyback a little bit there. So we are moving forward with making sure that all the possible initial applicants are ready. So please don't wait for this website to change. Act now and make the appointment.
Thank you, Veronica. We also did have a question about health services. Although the decision was more of a positive one, what health resources are still available for students and our staff? And I will kick that one over to Dr. Lim.
Good evening, everyone. The services available as student health and counseling are for students who are registered for fall semester. So right now in the summertime, we are accepting new students. We are offering therapy throughout the summer. There used to be an $88 fee for our mental health services in the summertime, but thankfully we have fought for that to be waived, and that fee has been waived. So therapy is free for registered students. If there are students who graduated in the last spring semester, but are still taking a summer course or are still taking a course in the fall, they also qualify. Unfortunately, we don't have services for faculty and staff at the Student Health and Counseling Center, but there are free services through the EAP program, through which you can receive 5 free therapy sessions per incident. And the way that incident is defined is really broad. So for example, if someone comes in and says, I and needing some space to process the decision, that's one incident. And then if the other incident is, I want to process how the decision impacts my family, that would be considered a second incident. And so together that would be about 10 sessions of free therapy. And I can provide a link on the chat for the EAP program and also student health and counseling services. In the fall, we will also be providing therapy services to our registered students. We think of them as free because there's no additional fee, but the fee is actually sort of wrapped up into tuition already for students. And specifically for undocumented and mixed status students, I offer a support group that is completely free. Anyone can join at any time. I don't ask questions about status. If anyone is interested in the group, they're allowed to join. And the group meets weekly for an hour and a half, and we focus on talking about things related to documentation status, as well as anything else impacting students. So of course, this really affects students' life and mental health, but also being a student can be quite stressful, and managing family relationships when folks are mixed status is also stressful. So anything related or unrelated to being undocumented or mixed status is reason enough to come to the group. The group is called Flutter, and there will be some flyers. I think there might be already some flyers out. There is no date and time printed on the flyer, just to protect folks' confidentiality, because services will continue to be via Zoom in the fall, as well as in the summertime. And just with the risk of people hacking the Zoom call, I don't provide the meeting time or the Zoom link on the flyer. Folks will need to reach out to me, and I can provide my email on the chat. And then via a more confidential one-on-one email, I'll provide the link and the time and date of the group. But all of that will be provided. I'll include that information on the chat.
Thank you, Dr. Lim. And we do have another question that just came in, and this is for our legal team, about how long have DACA renewals been taking to get back to the applicant?
I'll jump in first with a shout out to Victor Garcia, who is the DOJ, one of the DOJ accredited reps at URISE, and who's the person who sees the folks at Cal State San Marcos and Maricosta College through the Uprise program. I saw that question, so I texted him really quickly, and he just replied back and said it's fluctuating. That right now he's seeing that some renewal applications have been adjudicated within a few days of being received, and some are taking 8 to 12 weeks. We are still at this point recommending, with the new change, that people would apply, giving yourself a solid 6 months, so that your application goes in, so that you have plenty of time in case there's any problems. But the renewals, for the most part, have been coming in fairly quickly.
Thank you. And then there's another question. It says, can you talk more about if the Trump administration security were to submit everything needed, correctly fixing their procedural errors, what would be the process then? would we be able to challenge it in the courts, or is it automatically accepted because they follow the correct procedure?
So I'll kick off on that, and then if any of our attorneys have more to add, I welcome it. So the administration, as they've indicated, will likely go through a procedure to move forward on this, taking into account more of the long-term impacts that a rescission of DACA will have on DACA recipients. It will have much more of a reasoned approach to their decision, and not just that it was deemed unlawful, but it would move forward. This would be a months-long process. This would not be quick by any means. They would also have to provide a long transition process out of the program. This could not just be something that they say, tomorrow night the program ends and it's over. It would have to have a long, systematic approach to whittling down the program. This is something that would obviously be subject to litigation. It's not something that would go into effect automatically. It would have to be published in accordance with I think the APA sets a certain time frame that those rules have to be posted and commented on. So again, there will be opportunities that if and when they do move forward on this, that there's opportunities to both challenge and to comment on it, and time to work within that. But if I'm missing anything on that, I defer to the attorneys that we have. So, but short answer is it will not be a short process on this. This is a long road ahead on this. And then
okay, we had another.
Oh, Fina, I was going to say, I think there's a question for you on the Undocu Ally training. Someone was asking when Undocu Ally training for CSUSM faculty and staff is available in the fall, expressing their interest in becoming an ally and advocate / co-conspirator from one of our panelist phrasings.
Yeah, so we do have Undocu Ally trainings regularly. We actually have one coming up this Friday. It is all full for now, but we have some in the fall that will be planned out. We don't have the dates for them yet, but they will be posted on our website, or you can reach us at the Dream Resource Office, and we'll be able to provide those dates and times.
And can I jump in really quick? If you are, no, I can't. If you want to contact me to get involved, more involved with University Without Borders, M. Ramos, RAMOS at CSUSM. I will write it in a moment on the chat. We will welcome you with open arms.
Thank you, Dr. Michelle. And Floyd, can you talk a little bit about what the centers do for our students and how they can support our Dreamers and undocumented and mixed status family students?
Yeah, Fina, thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. I'm really happy to see everyone here and lend our support to our Dreamers and all those who are interested in supporting the community. So I oversee the Cross Cultural Center, which is one of 5 spaces that are part of the Student Life Centers for Identity, Inclusion, and Empowerment. It is a space that includes the Black Student Center, the Gender Equity Center, the Latino, Latina, Latinx Center, the LGBTQA Pride Center. So we have a wide variety of programming primarily, as well as support services. When we were physically on campus, we were often a space where students could come in between classes and hang out. We are intending on going virtual, so we will still be available and creating spaces for individuals who would like to learn more about the different services we provide. Some are specific to different communities to provide additional support. But often the programming we do is really help us to think about our own role in it, if anything else, right? So as an ally, co-conspirator, what is my role in what I do every day, in the choices that I make, and how I can support a lot of these social justice issues that Drs. Palicia Ramos and Marisol Clark-Ibanez have mentioned earlier. How do we make those connections from what we're learning in the classroom, and how does that manifest itself in the choices and the decisions that we make? How do we get involved, right, with, I think, what Sean does a lot with the government agencies and civic engagement. So that's really sort of in a nutshell. We also provide a lot of, a whole litany of services and connections for students to really find community. And so those are definitely places that I think we can support. The Dreamer Resource Office, albeit a small space, has done some amazing work in the time that they've been here, and they've got a great team of folks, and we're really here to support them in their efforts and also to stand with Dreamers as they work towards trying to make a difference in the communities.
Thank you, Floyd, and thank you for your continued support. We did have a question come in. This one is going to also be for the legal team. Can current DACA recipients apply for a real ID?
We can piggyback on that. First, we want to clarify that Maria and myself were both DOJ representatives. We're not attorneys. So there's like this figure in immigration law that you have to pass certain like certification to also be able. So that's to practice immigration law. So Maria and myself were both DOJ accredited reps. Yes, we have some information on Real ID, and as a DACA with a valid ED, you can go ahead and apply. And also we invite everyone to check the DRO offering for workshops, because we're having one coming up, not this week, but in 2 weeks, about specifically how to access those services for driver's license and Real ID, and how that will pan up with the post-DACA decision. And this Thursday, we're having a Know Your Rights workshop. It's still very important to be aware of what are your rights. Even if you did not qualify for DACA, please go ahead and try to get some information. We're also encouraging everyone to go ahead and be prepared and have those family emergency plans ready. And I know that Katia also does that service, so please try to follow Josefina and the DRO for information about these workshops.
Thank you, Veronica.
And I'm just going to jump in here quickly and welcome Congressman Mike Levin to our call. Thank you for joining us, Congressman. Really appreciate your time tonight.
Well, thank you very much, Sean. It's nice to see you, and it's great to be with you this evening. I'm grateful to President Neufeld and everybody at Cal State San Marcos. My district runs right up to the border with Cal State San Marcos, but given that you don't have a member of Congress right now for a few months, I will gladly volunteer as your member of Congress for a few months here, and longer if you want. But obviously grateful to be with you. You know, the Supreme Court's decision last week to reject the Trump administration's effort to rescind DACA is a victory for decency. It's a victory for dreamers, but really for all of us. You know, I cannot tell you how the decision impacted me personally. My own grandfather and grandmother came to the United States from Mexico as children. You wouldn't know by looking at me or from my last name. One side of the family, Mexican-American, the other side of the family, Jewish, from Eastern Europe. That's how you wind up with me. But my grandpa, when he was 12, came to the U.S., and my grandma came when she was 4, and they didn't have really any money. They didn't speak English. They didn't have any formal education. All they had was a belief in this country that if they worked really hard that they could do well, and that's what they did. They worked hard. They had a small business, and they eventually sent all 5 of their daughters to college. Neither of them had graduated high school, and all 5 of their daughters went to college. 3 of them had gotten advanced degrees, including my mom. And I think if they were alive today, number one, they'd think it was pretty cool that their youngest grandson could be a member of Congress. But number 2, I know where they would stand with our dreamers. And dreamers are our family members. They're our friends, our coworkers, our neighbors. They represent the very best of our nation. And they've also been essential workers on the front lines of this pandemic. And I think it's really important we don't forget about the sacrifices, working as first responders, working as healthcare professionals. I was very proud to invite a dreamer as my guest, my first ever guest to the first ever State of the Union that I attended. Lucero Sanchez was our guest, and she graduated from UCSD. She still works with our campaign. She came and was an intern on our campaign, and now helps run our field program and our Latinx outreach, and she's fantastic. But despite all this, we still see this anti-immigrant agenda. We still see almost immediately after the decision that President Trump says he's going to try again. And unfortunately, the decision did give the roadmap for them to try again. And we've got to be very cognizant of that. And I think while we celebrate right now, we have to keep fighting. So in the House, what we did well over a year ago is we passed H.R. 6, the Dream and Promise Act. That followed having passed the DREAM Act in 2010. And what the Dream and Promise Act would do is help not only dreamers, but also those with temporary protective status, protect them from deportation, create an opportunity for permanent legal status. And of course, Donald Trump and then Mitch McConnell in the Senate want nothing to do with H.R. 6. And I don't expect for McConnell to agree with every word in the bill, but 75% of the American people support our dreamers, want to see our dreamers continue to be in this country. And that includes a majority of Republicans. You heard that right, a majority of Republicans. So the only ones who are out of touch in this are the Senate Republicans, some of them, not all of them, and this president, who's wildly out of touch. I think that as I look right now at the movement in our country, whether it be racial justice, social justice, reforming our policing system, our law enforcement, climate change, gun violence prevention, or so many other issues of the day, it is young people that are leading the way. And my hope is that I'm 41 and that my generation and those in Congress who are much older than I am, that we don't screw it all up because of the work that you're doing that are creating those opportunities for us to make positive change, for us to have a more just and equitable America that we can be proud of. So that's what it's about. We're going to do everything we can to get the Dream and Promise Act over the finish line. And if we have a different administration, it's going to become the law of the land. And among all the reasons, I know this is not a political event, not supposed to be, I will say this election coming up, you hear this expression a lot, that an election is the most important election of our lives. This election, bar none, is the most important election of our lives. Because if this president gets a second term, he's going to go straight back and do everything he can to end the Daca program, create a further anti-immigrant set of policies that, unfortunately, unrestrained by a re-election, I worry that the consequences will be irreversible. On the other hand, if we have a different leader in the Oval Office, then we're going to have a very different outcome. And so I'm very grateful to you for your activism, for your advocacy. And the last thing I'll say is if any of you ever have any challenges, whether it be with immigration or anything else, and you need assistance, don't hesitate to reach out to our office. Because whether we can help or whether we can point you in the right direction, we are here to assist. And I think our district director, Francine Busby, is on the line. Is that right? So Francine has done an amazing job figuring out how to be a district director in a pandemic. Not easy to do, but she's done a wonderful job, and she and our team is there to assist. And we've got a number of people that work on immigration matters. Just let us know how we can help about that or anything else that you think we might be able to assist with. So you can contact our Oceanside office. Francine, maybe you want to put the number in the chat, but it's 760-599-5000. Again, 760-599-5000. And I just want to say thank you. I look forward to being back on campus, hopefully very soon, to see you all, although I know that's not going to happen right away. But stay safe, stay healthy, be well, and let's keep fighting, all right? Very good. Thank you,
Thank you
Sean.
very much, Congressman. We appreciate it, and I know Francine is on the line. She's on as a participant or as an attendee and not a panelist, so I know she's muted there. So I put the number in for any folks who are interested in reaching out. And as an offer for all of our Cal State San Marcos staff, faculty, students, if anyone's interested, if you don't have that number, reach out to me. I'll make sure we connect you to Congressman Levin's office for anything that you need. So. Thank you, Congressman. We really appreciate it. I want to kick it over and see if President Neufeld would like to say, I know she's probably very grateful to have you on the line, and she would like to just say a brief thank you for you.
Hi there.
Thank you so much for being with us and for all your support of our university. And you are ours. We have so many people that live in your district. You definitely have been, in my short time here, the greatest supporter of the university and the diversity and inclusiveness that we pride ourselves on. So thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Well, you're going to have, when you have a member in the 50th, you'll have like a dual parent household.
That's exactly right.
I will be very, competitive about my eagerness to help you.
Well, you will always be a part of us, and so we appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful evening. Be well.
Bye.
Thank you.
You as well. And segueing off of what the Congressman just said, we have a question asking, what is the CSU system doing as a whole to advocate for immigration reform, to help all students, employees, community members who are undocumented have a path to citizenship? And I think the perfect answer for that is working with congressmen just like our own Mike Levin here in the 49th. Like he indicated, we are absent a congressman here in the 50th, which will be filled in November. But we do have a delegation here throughout San Diego, Riverside, and Orange counties that we work with. We have the entire California delegation that the CSU system works with on behalf of our students, and that immigration reform is perennially one of the top issues that our Office of Federal Relations advocates on in DC. So we have a team in DC led by Jim Gelb, who's fantastic. He does really great work, and as the largest system of public higher education, I believe in the world, not just the US, but we have a very powerful voice in DC. So when we speak as a system on behalf of issues like immigration reform, like DACA, about things that are going to make sure that there are protections and safeguards in place for our students that are part of our CSU family, Congress listens. And we also work in hand in glove with our larger organizations across the public higher education spectrum, whether it's ASCU, APLU, ACE, HAKU, and others who all have immigration reform and preservation and protections for DACA students as their top priority. So if you're interested in finding out more, please, again, I'll make sure I put my email in there. Reach out to me. I'd be happy to let any of our students, our faculty, our staff know about the efforts that we're undertaking in DC and at the state level too. So always happy to help. I'll make sure as soon as I'm done yapping here, I'll type my email in. So we don't have any questions filing in right now, but I did want to open the opportunity, speak now or forever hold your peace to anyone who is still on, who has questions that we may not have addressed, or if there's areas. I also want to provide the opportunity for all of our panelists. I know a couple who have joined us to help answer questions haven't gotten the chance to speak, but if there's any area that if you want to raise your hand from your special if there's something that you would like our DACA students to know, or our students in general around these issues that you think would be important for them to hear while they're trying to navigate this uncertain time, the floor is yours. All right. Going once, twice.
May I add something to something that you said just a minute ago?
Absolutely.
About answering the question about what's Cal State San Marcos doing. One of the things that I hope Cal State San Marcos and the community and the CSU system is doing, and I guess I'm saying I really hope that that is something that you will prioritize, is really listening to the impacted community and listening to the youth, because we would not have DACA if it wasn't for people who are willing to be undocumented and unafraid. And it has not always been easy. In fact, it's been quite hard for most of us to follow the lead of youth organizers and youth leaders and people who are undocumented. And I think that that has been to our detriment. And so I want to make sure that that is part of the conversation as we're moving forward of how we do this work in a better way, and how we actually work for solutions that people want and not just what the majority thinks. So we have access to not only students directly, but we have access to community organizations, grassroots organizations. In North County, we have North County Immigration Task Force, we have Universidad Popular, we have Alianza Comunitaria. We have wonderful groups where people are coming together and they're lifting their voice. And as a community and as institutions, we need to amplify those voices and we need to be centering them. And I think that this is, again, an opportunity to do that. And I appreciate the work that has been done. And I'm just inviting us to be more intentional and more mindful about doing that.
Thank you, Katia. And we do have a question from a student. She can't type it in, so I'm going to go ahead and allow her to talk. Okay, Carolina, you should be unmuted.
Important question. Oh, wait, hold on. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so my question is, what will Cal State San Marcos, as in the president or whoever has the power, to fund the Dreamer Resource Office long term? Because it's a very important we have students.
Absolutely, it's important, and I don't have a budget plan for you today, but ensuring that the Dreamer Resource Center is here to stay is absolutely a priority. And so you don't have to work. I will tell you from me, the Dreamer Resource Center is a priority.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I know we got a question around, and I see that Lisa has answered it in the chat around employee issues for DACA, but I just want to see if there's anything else, Lisa, on employees and DACA that people should be mindful of. If there's anything, I know things are moving quickly and we don't have much guidance right now, but if there is any guidance we've received, or if this is kind of like a stay tuned, wait and hold on employees and DACA.
It's still, we're very excited, of course, about the decision, but it's still kind of a wait and see. I will say Marisol had asked the question of me on the chat, just to reaffirm that any current employment authorization documents that employees have, we actually, we have many employees on campus who are DACA employees. So those are still active, feel free to apply, come work for the university, or, like if you are a student employee or whatever right now. So I just wanted to mention that as well.
And also, Sean, I want to add that Jewish Family Services are also open for staff and employees. So please go ahead and schedule the appointment. It's free and it's confidential. You just go to the website and just go straight to our inbox. So please go ahead.
Thank you, Lisa and Veronica. We do have a question. How can you get involved with the Joe office? We're always looking for volunteers or interns, and even just come visit us on Teams or call us. And we always have events you can attend. I'm going to put my email address in the chat box as well, so everybody has it. Please reach out.
We do have a question on when is the workshop to know if DACA recipients can qualify to apply for a real ID? Do we have a time on that, or is that still TBD?
So it's actually coming up in 2 weeks at noon, and whomever is interested, please follow up the DRO or just go to our website that we put in the chat box and we can repeat. So it's jfssd.org, and we're working on having the clickable calendar there. But again, the next Know Your Rights is this Thursday at noon, and we just also put in the chat box the link for the Zoom. So we're going to provide more information on the workshop.
And just piggybacking on that, the exact date of that workshop is the 23rd of July at noon, as mentioned.
Thank you. All right, last chance for questions. Any comment from any of our panelists? Oh, yes, Julie.
Thank you. I received a private question about the CARES Act funding, and while that fund was restricted to FAFSA filers or FAFSA eligible students, what did CSUSM make available to Dreamers? We matched dollar for dollar the federal funding, so the awards that the DREAM students or undocumented students received were exactly the same as their federal counterparts. And we were very pleased to offer that. That wasn't a possibility at all.
We didn't catch that last part, Julie. You broke out. Can you repeat it?
I'm sorry, my internet's unstable. Let me know if you can't hear anything. We were able to match the CARES Act funding dollar for dollar with the same amounts that all the FAFSA filers receive, solely based on the students having a CADA application with our office. Did I break out again?
No, we got it. Thank you. Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, I just wanted to mention that you don't need DACA to come to the university. You can be an undocumented student and still apply for the California DREAM Act. So being a DACA recipient is not necessary. Veronica, go ahead.
Yes, and just also talking about funds, we have the information about the dry funds. So if you haven't called and you think you qualify, please go ahead and do it. Again, if you go to the webpage for Jewish Family Service, the numbers are listed there. And we know it's a draining process to call. You have to insist. It takes very, very, very long time, but you have to be live. Like, you cannot leave a message. It has to be like a live answer. So please insist. I think we still have, as of 1 week ago, we still had like 3,000 cards to distribute. And again, it's for undocumented adults, and it can be 500 per adult up to 1,000 per household.
And I will add on the CARES Act, in another area where Cal State San Marcos and the CSU in general has been really active is in advocacy on that, and not just in the initial CARES Act funds, but working with our local delegation and the entire California delegation to urge the Department of Education to allow. They took some liberties with the legislation and restricted CARES Act funding to not be eligible for undocumented students, and the entire CSU has worked both out in front and behind the scenes. And this is a testament to Jim Gelb's crew over in DC of the work that they do of trying to work to advocate to make sure that those funds would be eligible for DACA students. It's been unsuccessful. The administration has, they've issued temporary rules, they've issued intermittent rules that have been challenged, that are in this constant cycle of rule issued and injunction. But I think that's another example of the ways that the CSU is fighting. It's not just for the funding, but to make sure that the funding we receive is equitable and accessible for all of our students.
Thank you. And we had another question come in. Can you go over some examples of what types of documents are needed to apply for DACA?
Absolutely. I actually said I was going to do that and I forgot, didn't I? My apologies. So let me quick hit on the 7 eligibility requirements, and then just know that for each one of those eligibility requirements, there has to be documentation. I'll give you a couple examples. In order to be eligible to apply for DACA, and this is for anyone who would be applying for initial DACA once USCIS gives us guidelines and opens up the applications again. Someone has to have entered the United States before turning age 16. So you'll have to have proof that you were in the United States before your 16th birthday. You have to have been present in the United States without status on June 15th, 2012. You can't be over age 31 as of June 15th, 2012. That was the announcement date of DACA. You have to have continuously resided in the United States since June 15th, 2007. And you will need to prove that you've been continuously in the United States since June 15th, 2007. We prove continuous residence by providing one piece of evidence for every 90 days. So for every quarter, you have to have one piece of evidence. We'll talk about that in just a second, but that's always the one that's going to be hardest, because now in 2020, we've got to show 13 years worth of evidence, 13 years proving that you've been here every year. The 5th requirement is at the time that you apply, you have to be in high school, have graduated from high school, or have a certificate of completion, or a GED, or be an honorably discharged veteran. You have to have a fairly clean criminal history record. So you cannot have been convicted of a felony, a significant misdemeanor, or 3 or more non-significant misdemeanors. You also can't be a risk to national security, and you can't be a risk to public safety. Oh, thank you. I think that was Veronica. Thank you. And then at the time of the application, you have to be at least 15 years of age, is the other requirement. So the types of evidence that you may want to have. Actually, let me just do one thing really quickly. There are a couple of things that if you have a conviction, regardless of the amount of time of that conviction, it will disqualify you from DACA. So if you have a conviction for domestic violence, sexual abuse or exploitation, burglary, driving under the influence, a DUI, unlawful possession of a firearm, or drug distribution or drug trafficking, that will disqualify you. This is an important thing, because if you have been convicted of any of those, you definitely want to speak to an immigration attorney or DOJ accredited rep to see about what some post-conviction relief may be, to be able to get that conviction changed to something that wouldn't prevent you from applying for DACA. Minor traffic violations are not a bar, though. So just know that if you have speeding tickets or failure to do a complete stop, red light violations, the important thing is that they are all paid and taken care of. It's important to note that if you have tickets that haven't been paid, they can become a bench warrant, and a bench warrant is no longer a simple traffic ticket. So specific specific evidence that you'll need are going to be around your identity. So passport, matricula, school issued ID, a birth certificate, and some sort of a photo ID, any sort of government document, military ID, evidence that you entered the United States before age 16, generally is going to be school transcripts to show that you started school, either in elementary school or junior high or high school. Those are always the best. If you don't have access to those records, hospital records, medical records, vaccination records, travel documents, or a passport stamp that shows that you entered the United States. You also can use official religious records. So if you were part of a baptism, a first communion, a wedding, those can count as well. But you really need to show that you were in the United States before your 16th birthday. You have to show that you had no lawful status on June 15th, 2012. that would there would be an impact if you entered the United States with lawful status. You'd have to show that that lawful status was no longer valid on that day. If you never had lawful status, there's nothing to prove, and you would just identify that you've never had lawful status. Evidence that you were in the United States on June 15th, 2012. We've used anything from credit card receipts, ATM receipts, cell phone bills, bank statements, employment records. Rent receipts are another good way to show continuous residence or presence in the United States. Utility bills, hospital records, medical records, vaccination records. An important thing to know is that places that have rewards programs, AutoZone and Kragen generally both print your name on your receipt. Costco is a good receipt because it generally has your name printed on your receipt. We have had to be really creative in the evidence that we use to show that someone has been in the United States. We always want to use the strongest evidence, which is what's called third-party evidence. So enrollment in school, attendance records at school, your report cards, things like that. But we have gone so far as to print out Facebook check-ins back when people would check into a restaurant and say, look, I'm here on this day at this time, and this is what I'm eating. We also have used rosters from people who play soccer to show that they were on the team and that they played on those days. And we have evidence that that they had a game in Carlsbad or they had a game in Oceanside. So we will work with you and be very creative in coming up with that evidence. And particularly since we're looking at 13 years of evidence, we're going to need a lot of that. But to shorthand that, what are the things that you can start pulling together now? Getting your school transcripts, getting all of your records of attendance, looking to see what years don't you see or what months don't you see going back to June 15th of 2007. If once you graduated high school, it sometimes gets harder. So then we're looking for pay stubs. We're looking for cell phone records. We're looking for, we can submit bank records. We try not to because we don't want to give the government any more information about you than they need. But we're always going to use whatever's the strongest piece of evidence for you. So does that kind of give a general overview? Veronica or Maria, what am I missing?
I think you covered it really very well, Katia. One of the things that we're foreseeing is that for many of these future DACA applicants for initials are my parents right now, so records for their kids are also going to be beneficial.
Yes, that's a good one. Yeah, if you medical records for yourself or for your children. I see another question that came up is, does the birth certificate still need to be translated into English? And yes, it's really important to note that every document that you have that's in a language other than English will need to be a certified translation. That does not need to be a notarized translation. It just needs to be a certified translation. And anyone who's fluent in both English and the language of that document can certify that translation. It's important to note that your passport or your matricula does not need to be translated, but birth certificates, medical records, any other types of records would.
So we had one partial question come in. It said, if a student, ... So I just want to give the poster. It wasn't anonymous, so whoever posted the question, if you have more to that, if you want to share, we'll give you like a few seconds to type that out. If not, do any of our other panelists have anything else to add? No? Well, I do want to say the president had to hop off, but she did express her thanks to all of our panelists for participating and for everyone for listening in. And I really want to thank her for staying on here for as long as she did. I know, especially with the budget being finalized today and the details we've been getting, there was a lot of strain on her schedule. So I do appreciate the time that she took and all of you took to be with us here today and to answer these tough questions and to provide much needed guidance to our students, our faculty, our staff, and our whole community right now as we're all trying to understand this decision. So we have, I'm okay, thanks. So I guess our questioner is good. We do have an FYI for students have been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor. Of course, the panelists are better suited. Research. You can reach out to Crime and Justice Studies Sociology faculty and or to Project Rebound. And I will post a link to Project Rebound if you're interested in, I'll just put Answered Live so everybody can see that. If you need the link to Project Rebound, a fantastic organization there. So once again, I want to express my sincere gratitude to all of you for taking the time tonight, especially in the after hours. We do really appreciate it, both from all of our Cal State San Marcos colleagues who joined us, but especially for those from our outside organizations who took the time to be here. Thank you. We really, truly appreciate it. Josefina, did you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I also want to thank all of our panelists. We do appreciate your expertise and the time you took to share with us today. And I did want to say that although this conversation focuses on DACA and DACA recipients, we do understand there are many other students who don't qualify for the DACA program. And to those students, just know that we want a permanent solution for all, for students, your parents, your family members, and all the community members here and throughout the US. You're all important, and we will continue to advocate for you. You don't need DACA again to be a student at CSUSM. The DRO continuously researches scholarships and undocumented students are eligible for, and we keep a list of those. So if you need that, please reach out. Also, please reach out to us to learn about any resources we have available. And if you're too afraid to reach out, everything is on our website. So please visit us at csusm.edu/dreamer. This webinar, again, was recorded, and it will be posted on our website in the next few days. And again, I am working with Dr. Michelle Ramos-Galicia and Ariel Stevenson from the Office of Inclusive Excellence to create community circles where we can come together and support each other. So please keep an eye out for that. And then also I want to give a quick shout out to our community members who joined us today, parents who were on here, just getting information for your children, and also our allies for being here with us. Please continue to share all of this information with anyone that you think can use it. And yeah, please just reach out to us. Thank you.
And Damon Adamo from IITS, we really appreciate your help on this, because the complete lack of tech skills, especially on my part, I would have been lost without you. So I know I speak for Fina and Dr. Gilmore and myself in our sincere gratitude for your help in making this work. So thank you. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, have a lovely night. Thank you again.
Thank you for having us. We love supporting the school, and we are here to serve.
We love having you.
Everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.